Chapter 6. The sons of the prophets said to Elisha, "See now, the place where we dwell before you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, and take every man a beam, and let us make a place there where we may dwell." He answered, "Go." One said, "Be pleased to go with your servants." He answered, "I will go." So he went with them. When they came to the Jordan, they cut down wood. But as one was felling a beam, the axe head fell into the water, and he cried and said, "Alas, my master, for it was borrowed." The man of God said, "Where did it fall?" He showed him the place. He cut down a stick and cast it in there, and made the iron to swim. He said, "Pick it up." So he put out his hand and took it. Now the king of Syria was warring against Israel, and took counsel with his servants, saying, "In such and such a place shall be my camp." The man of God sent to the king of Israel, saying, "Beware that you do not pass such a place, for there the Syrians are coming down." The king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God told him and warned him of, and saved himself there not once nor twice. The heart of the king of Syria was very troubled for this thing, and he called his servants and said to them, "Won't you show me which of us is for the king of Israel?" One of his servants said, "Not so, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet who is in Israel tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedchamber." He said, "Go and see where he is, that I may send and get him." They told him, saying, "Behold, he is in Dothan." Therefore he sent horses and chariots and a great host, and they came by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God rose up early and went out, behold, a host with horses and chariots was round about the city. His servant said to him, "Alas, my master, what shall we do?" He answered, "Don't be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." Elisha prayed and said, "O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." The Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire around Elisha. When they came down to him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, "Please smite these people with blindness." He struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. Elisha said to them, "This is not the way, neither is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek." He led them to Samaria. It happened, when they came into Samaria, that Elisha said, "O Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see." The Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the middle of Samaria. The king of Israel said to Elisha when he saw them, "My father, shall I strike them? Shall I strike them down?" He answered, "You shall not strike them. Would you strike those whom you have taken captive with your sword and with your bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink, and return to their master." He prepared great provision for them, and when they had eaten and drunk, he sent them away, and they went to their master. The bands of Syria came no more into the land of Israel. It happened after this, that Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, gathered all his host, and went up and besieged Samaria. There was a great famine in Samaria, and they besieged it, until a donkey's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver. As the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, there cried a woman to him, saying, "Help, my lord, O king." He said, "If the Lord doesn't help you, how can I help you? Out of the threshing floor or out of the winepress?" The king said to her, "What ails you?" She answered, "This woman said to me, 'Give me your son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow.' So we boiled my son and ate him. And I said to her on the next day, 'Give me your son, that we may eat him.' And now she has hidden her son." It happened, when the king heard the words of the woman, that he tore his clothes. Now he was passing by on the wall. And the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth within on his flesh. Then he said, "God do so to me, and more also, if the head of Elisha, the son of Shaphat, shall stand on him this day." But Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. And the king sent a man from before him, But before the messenger came to him, he said to the elders, "See how this son of a murderer has sent to take off my head. Behold, when the messenger comes, shut the door, and hold the door fast against him. Isn't the sound of his master's feet behind him?" While he was yet talking with them, behold, the messenger came down to him, and he said, "Behold, this evil is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer?" Chapter 7. Elisha said, "Hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, Tomorrow about this time a measure of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria." Then the captain, on whose hand the king leaned, answered the man of God and said, "Behold, even if the Lord should make windows in heaven, can this thing be?" He said, "Behold, you shall see it with your eyes, but shall not eat of it." Now there were 4 leprous men at the entrance of the gate, and they said to one another, "Why do we sit here until we die? If we say, We will enter the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we will die also. Now therefore, come, let us go to the host of the Syrians, and if they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die." They rose up in the twilight to go to the camp of the Syrians, and when they came to the outermost part of the camp of the Syrians, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said to one another, "Behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us." Therefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their donkeys, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. When these lepers came to the outermost part of the camp, they went into one tent, and ate and drank, and carried away silver and gold and clothing, and went and hid it. And they came back, and entered into another tent, and carried away from there also, and went and hid it. Then they said to one another, "We aren't doing the right thing. This is a day of good news, and we hold our peace. If we wait until the morning light, punishment will overtake us. Now let's go and tell the king's household." So they came and called to the porter of the city, and they told them, saying, "We came to the camp of the Syrians, and there was no man there, neither voice of man, but the horses tied and the donkeys tied, and the tents as they were." He called the porters, and they told it to the king's household inside. The king arose in the night and said to his servants, "I will now show you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we are hungry. Therefore they have gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, When they come out of the city, we will take them alive and go into their city." One of his servants answered, "Please let's take 5 of the horses that remain which are left in the city. Behold, they are as the multitude of Israel who are left in it, and they are as the multitude of Israel who are consumed. And let us send and see." They took therefore 2 chariots with horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, "Go and see." They went after them to the Jordan, and all the way was full of garments and vessels, which the Syrians had cast away in their haste. The messengers returned and told the king. The people went out and plundered the camp of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. The king appointed the captain on whose hand he leaned to have the charge of the gate, and the people trod on him in the gate, and he died as the man of God had said, who spoke when the king came down to him. It happened, as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, will be tomorrow about this time in the gate of Samaria. And that captain answered the man of God and said, If the Lord should make windows in heaven, how can such a thing be? And he said, Behold, you shall see it with your eyes, but shall not eat of it. It happened even so to him, for the people trod on him in the gate, and he died. Chapter 8. Now Elisha had spoken to the woman, whose son he had restored to life, saying, Arise and go, you and your household, and sojourn wherever you can sojourn, For the Lord has called for a famine, and it shall also come on the land 7 years. The woman arose and did according to the word of the man of God, and she went with her household, and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. It happened at the end of 7 years that the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines, and she went forth to cry to the king for her house and for her land. Now the king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, Please tell me all the great things that Elisha has done. It happened, as he was telling the king how he had restored life to him who was dead, that behold, the woman, whose son he had restored to life, cried to the king for her house and for her land. Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. When the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed to her a certain officer, saying, Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field since the day that she left the land, even until now. Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad the king of Syria was sick, and it was told him, saying, The man of God is come here. The king said to Hazael, Take a present in your hand, and go and meet the man of God, and inquire of the Lord by him, and say, Shall I recover of this sickness? So Hazael went to meet him, and took a present with him, even of every good thing of Damascus, 40 camels' burdens, and came and stood before him, and said, Your son Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, has sent me to you, saying, Shall I recover of this sickness? Elisha said to him, Go tell him, You shall surely recover. However, the Lord has shown me that he shall surely die. He settled his gaze steadfastly on him until he was ashamed, and the man of God wept. Hazael said, Why does my lord weep? He answered, Because I know the evil that you will do to the children of Israel. Their strongholds you will set on fire, and their young men you will kill with the sword, and you will dash in pieces their little ones, and rip up their women with child. Hazael said, But what is your servant who is but a dog, that he should do this great thing? Elisha answered, The Lord has shown me that you will be king over Syria. Then he departed from Elisha and came to his master, who said to him, What did Elisha say to you? He answered, He told me that you would surely recover. It happened on the next day that he took the cover and dipped it in water and spread it on his face so that he died, and Hazael reigned in his place. In the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat being then king of Judah, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. 32 years old he was when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab, for he had the daughter of Ahab as a wife, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. However, the Lord would not destroy Judah, for David his servant's sake, as he promised him to give him a lamp for his children always. In his days Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah, and made a king over themselves. Then Joram passed over to Zaire, and all his chariots with him, and he rose up by night, and struck the Edomites who surrounded him, and the captains of the chariots, and the people fled to their tents. So Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah to this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. The rest of the acts of Joram, and all that he did, aren't they written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Joram slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his place. In the 12th year of Joram the son of Ahab, king of Israel, did Ahaziah the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, begin to reign. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. He walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as did the house of Ahab, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. He went with Joram the son of Ahab to war against Hazael king of Syria at Ramoth-Gilead, and the Syrians wounded Joram. King Joram returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Syrians had given him at Ramah, when he fought against Hazael king of Syria. Ahaziah the son of Jehoram king of Judah went down to see Joram the son of Ahab in Jezreel, because he was sick. Chapter 9. Elisha the prophet called one of the sons of the prophets and said to him, Gird up your loins, and take this vial of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth-Gilead. When you come there, look for Jehu the son of Jehoshaphat the son of Nimshi, and go in, and make him rise up from among his brothers, and carry him to an inner room. Then take the vial of oil, and pour it on his head, and say, Thus says the Lord, I have anointed you king over Israel. Then open the door and flee, and don't wait. So the young man, even the young man the prophet, went to Ramoth-Gilead. When he came, the captains of the host were sitting, and he said, I have an errand to you, captain. Jehu said, To which of us all? He said, To you, O captain. He arose, and went into the house, and he poured the oil on his head, and said to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I have anointed you king over the people of the Lord, even over Israel. You shall strike the house of Ahab your master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord, at the hand of Jezebel. For the whole house of Ahab shall perish, and I will cut off from Ahab every man-child, and him who is shut up, and him who is left at large in Israel. I will make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah. The dog shall eat Jezebel in the portion of Jezreel, and there shall be none to bury her. He opened the door and fled. Then Jehu came forth to the servants of his lord, and one said to him, Is all well? Why did this mad fellow come to you? He said to them, You know the man and what his talk is. They said, It's not true, tell us now. He said, Thus and thus he spoke to me, saying, Thus says the Lord, I have anointed you king over Israel. Then they hurried, and took every man his garment, and put it under him on the top of the stairs, and blew the trumpet, saying, Jehu is king. So Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now Joram was keeping Ramoth-Gilead, he and all Israel, because of Hazael king of Syria. But King Joram had returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Syrians had given him when he fought with Hazael king of Syria. Jehu said, If this be your mind, then let none escape, and go forth out of the city to go tell it in Jezreel. So Jehu rode in a chariot, and went to Jezreel, for Joram lay there. Ahaziah king of Judah was come down to see Joram. Now the watchman was standing on the tower in Jezreel, and he spied the company of Jehu as they came, and said, I see a company. Joram said, Take a horseman, and send to meet them, and let him say, Is it peace? So there went one on horseback to meet him, and said, Thus says the king, Is it peace? Jehu said, What do you have to do with peace? Get behind me. The watchman told, saying, The messenger came to them, but he isn't coming back. Then he sent out a second messenger on horseback, who came to them and said, Thus says the king, Do you come peaceably? Jehu answered, What do you know about peace? Get behind me. The watchman told the king, saying, He came to them, and isn't coming back. And the driving is like the driving of Jehu the son of Nimshi, for he drives furiously. Joram said, Make ready. They made ready his chariot. Joram king of Israel and Ahaziah king of Judah went out, each in his chariot, and they went out to meet Jehu, and found him in the portion of Naboth the Jezreelite. It happened, when Joram saw Jehu, that he said, Is it peace, Jehu? He answered, What peace, so long as the prostitution of your mother Jezebel and her witchcraft abound? Joram turned his hands and fled, and said to Ahaziah, There is treachery, Ahaziah. Jehu drew his bow with his full strength, and struck Joram between his arms, and the arrow went out at his heart, and he sunk down in his chariot. Then Jehu said to Bidkar his captain, Take him up, and cast him in the portion of the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. For do you remember how that when you and I rode together with Ahab his father, the Lord laid this burden on him? Surely I have seen yesterday the blood of Naboth, and the blood of his son, said the Lord, and I will return it to you in this very place, says the Lord. Now therefore take and cast him into the plot of ground, according to the word of the Lord. But when Ahaziah the king of Judah saw this, he fled by the way of the garden house. Jehu followed after him and said, Smite him also in the chariot. And they struck him at the ascent of Gur, which is by Ibleam. He fled to Megiddo and died there. His servants carried him in a chariot to Jerusalem, and buried him in his tomb with his fathers in the city of David. In the 11th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, began Ahaziah to reign over Judah. When Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her eyes, and attired her head, and looked out at the window. As Jehu entered in at the gate, she said, Is it peace, you Zimri, your master's murderer? He lifted up his face to the window and said, Who is on my side? Who? They looked out at him 2 or 3 eunuchs. He said, Throw her down. So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall, and on the horses, and he trod her under foot. When he had come in, he ate and drank, and he said, See now to this cursed woman, and bury her, for she is a king's daughter. They went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull, and the feet, and the palms of her hands. Therefore they came back and told him. He said, This is the word of the Lord, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, In the portion of Jezreel shall the dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the body of Jezebel shall be as dung on the face of the field in the portion of Jezreel, so that they shall not say, This is Jezebel. Chapter 10. Now Ahab had 70 sons in Samaria. Jehu wrote letters and sent to Samaria, to the rulers of Jezreel, even the elders, and to those who brought up the sons of Ahab, saying, Now as soon as this letter comes to you, seeing your master's sons are with you, and there are with you chariots and horses, a fortified city also and armor, look out the best, and meet of your master's sons, and set him on his father's throne, and fight for your master's house. But they were very afraid, and said, Behold, the 2 kings didn't stand before him, how then shall we stand? He who was over the household, and he who was over the city, the elders also, and those who brought up the children, sent to Jehu, saying, We are your servants, and will do all that you bid us. We will not make any man king. You do that which is good in your eyes. Then he wrote a letter the 2nd time to them, saying, If you be on my side, and if you will listen to my voice, take the heads of the men, your master's sons, and come to me to Jezreel by tomorrow at this time. Now the king's sons, being 70 persons, were with the great men of the city who brought them up. It happened, when the letter came to them, that they took the king's sons and killed them, even 70 persons, and put their heads in baskets, and sent them to him in Jezreel. A messenger came and told him, saying, They have brought the heads of the king's sons. He said, Lay them in 2 heaps at the entrance of the gate until the morning. It happened in the morning that he went out and stood and said to all the people, You are righteous. Behold, I conspired against my master and killed him. But who struck all these? Know now that there shall fall to the earth nothing of the word of the Lord, which the Lord spoke concerning the house of Ahab, for the Lord has done that which he spoke by his servant Elijah. So Jehu struck all that remained of the house of Ahab in Jezreel, and all his great men, and his familiar friends, and his priests, until he left him none remaining. He arose and departed, and went to Samaria. As he was at the shearing house of the shepherds in the way, Jehu met with the brothers of Ahaziah king of Judah, and said, Who are you? They answered, We are the brothers of Ahaziah, and we go down to greet the children of the king and the children of the queen. Jehu said, Take them alive. They took them alive and killed them at the pit of the shearing house, 42 men. Neither did he leave any of them alive. When he had left there, he came upon Jehonadab, the son of Rechab, coming to meet him, and he greeted him and said to him, Is your heart right, as my heart is with your heart? Jehonadab answered, It is. If it be, give me your hand. He gave him his hand, and he took him up into the chariot. He said, Come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. So they made him ride in his chariot. When he came to Samaria, he struck all who remained to Ahab in Samaria, until he had destroyed him, according to the word of the Lord which he spoke to Elijah. Jehu gathered all the people together and said to them, Ahab served Baal a little, but Jehu will serve him much. Now therefore call to me all the prophets of Baal, all his worshippers, and all his priests. Let none be missing, for I have a great sacrifice to do for Baal. Whoever shall be missing, he shall not live. But Jehu said this in deceit, to the intent that he might destroy the worshippers of Baal. Jehu said, Sanctify a solemn assembly for Baal. They proclaimed it. Jehu sent throughout all Israel, and all the worshippers of Baal came, so that there was not a man left that didn't come. They came into the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was filled from one end to another. He said to him who was over the vestry, Bring forth the garments for all the worshippers of Baal. He brought them the garments. Jehu went, and Jehonadab the son of Rechab, into the house of Baal, and he said to the worshippers of Baal, Search, and look that there be none with you of the servants of the Lord, but the worshippers of Baal only. They went in to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Jehu had appointed 80 men outside, and said, If any of the men whom I bring into your hands escape, he who lets him go, his life shall be for the life of him that has escaped. It happened, as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, that Jehu said to the guard and to the captains, Go in and kill them, let none come out. They struck them with the edge of the sword, and the guard and the captains cast them out, and went to the city of the house of Baal. They brought forth the pillars that were in the house of Baal, and burned them. They broke down the pillar of Baal, and broke down the house of Baal, and made it a latrine to this day. Thus Jehu destroyed Baal out of Israel. However, from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, with which he made Israel to sin, Jehu didn't depart after them, even the golden calves that were in Bethel, and that were in Dan. The Lord said to Jehu, Because you have done well in executing that which is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab according to all that was in my heart, your sons of the 4th generation shall sit on the throne of Israel. But Jehu took no heed to walk in the law of the Lord, the God of Israel, with all his heart. He didn't depart from the sins of Jeroboam, with which he made Israel to sin. In those days the Lord began to cut off from Israel, and Hazael struck them in all the borders of Israel, from the Jordan eastward, all the land of Gilead, the Gadites and the Reubenites and the Manassites, from Aroer, which is by the valley of Arnon, even Gilead and Bashan. Now the rest of the acts of Jehu, and all that he did, and all his might, aren't they written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Jehu slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria. Jehoahaz, his son, reigned in his place. The time that Jehu reigned over Israel in Samaria was 28 years.